There are realities that no book records and no law fully captures. Truths that lie quietly within creation itself, waiting for a gaze that sees not with the mind, but with the heart. Ibn Arabi, the great mystic of Andalusia, was one of those rare beings. He did not simply study the divine. He perceived it shimmering behind all existence. Among his most striking and unsettling revelations was "This woman is the mirror of God." Many could not grasp him. Some dismissed his words as poetic excess. Others accused him of being driven by longing. But those who had walked the inward path understood. They knew he was pointing to a sacred mystery veiled within the feminine, one that had nothing to do with lust and everything to do with how the divine unveils compassion, beauty, and tenderness in this world. When Ibn Arabi spoke of woman, he wasn't speaking of earthly form. He spoke of reflection, of how the feminine carries within it a singular power to receive, nurture, and embody life. These are not merely human traits. They are divine qualities, made visible, calling the seeker to look beneath the surface. To look upon a woman with the eye of spirit is to glimpse the mercy of Ar-Rahman, the subtlety of Al-Latif, the loving gentleness of Al-Wadud. She is not the source of the light. She is its polished mirror. She is not the flame. She is the surface through which it shines. This is why beauty, for Ibn Arabi, was never a lure. It was revelation. He urged seekers to learn to see with clarity, not to flee beauty out of fear, nor fall into desire, but to recognize what beauty leads toward, the one who fashioned it. In this sacred vision, the feminine is not a weakness to suppress, but a threshold to honor, a mirror placed within creation not for possession, but for awakening. Ibn Arabi taught that the divine manifests through two vast dimensions, Jalal and Jamal, majesty and beauty. Jalal is power, awe, firmness, the thunder roaring over mountains. Jamal is compassion, grace, tenderness, the scent of a rose, the gentleness of a mother's touch. Both are essential. Without Jalal, life loses structure. Without Jamal, it loses soul. And within this holy balance, woman becomes the clearest reflection of Jamal, not as decoration or temptation, but as a living sign of divine tenderness. Her power to carry life, to forgive easily, to give without asking, these are not simply admirable traits. They are the fingerprints of God upon the human heart. Ibn Arabi's words were daring, not to shock, but to awaken. He saw that many feared beauty, treating it as a trap. But he insisted, beauty is a doorway. It is not something to avoid, but something to walk through. To truly see a woman is not to worship her form, nor to deny it, but to recognize the divine radiance shimmering through her, just as sunlight glows through stained glass. Her mercy flows from Ar-Rahim. Her patience echoes as Sabr. Her quiet wisdom bears the mark of Al-Hakim. She is not divine, yet divinity has touched her. And if you learn to witness that, if her beauty draws your gaze back to the source rather than away from it, then beauty becomes remembrance, love becomes devotion, and the way forward becomes illuminated. The seeker who fears beauty remains distant from truth. The one who learns to see through beauty steps closer to the real. To Ibn Arabi, marriage was never merely a social pact or worldly arrangement. It was a spiritual school, one of the most intimate mirrors the soul could ever face. Through marriage, the seeker encounters not only the other, but their own ego, limitations, and capacity to love. In her patience, a man sees his own restlessness. In her nurturing, he recognizes his neglect. In her quiet strength, he meets divine attributes he himself has yet to cultivate. And she in him sees the qualities that complete her own nature: protection, steadiness, resolve. This is not hierarchy, it is harmony, a meeting of opposites, not for dominance but for reflection. Ibn Arabi saw this sacred exchange as a way to polish the mirror of the heart until the couple no longer sees only one another, but sees God shining through every gesture, every silence, every shared breath. He wrote that marriage can become either a veil or a revelation. Approached with ego, it becomes possession, control, blindness. Approached with humility, it becomes worship, not in ritual, but in perception, in listening, in service. The wife is not an object of desire, nor merely a partner in daily life. She can become the mirror through which one beholds the Lord. And this, he taught, is not a metaphor. It is mystical truth. To love her rightly is to love the one reflected through her. To honor her is to honor her source. And when this is lived, the home becomes more than a dwelling. It becomes a sanctuary, a place where two souls help each other remember the divine again and again. The same face, the same voice, the same embrace, all can either reveal the divine or conceal it. Ibn Arabi warned, it is not her form that changes, but the eye that sees. The wife may become a mirror or a veil. The difference lies not in her, but in you. If a man looks at his wife with desire alone, he sees only the surface. If he sees her as possession, he loses her essence. Instead of perceiving God's reflection, he sees only his own hunger, and in that gaze, the mirror fogs. The sacred becomes ordinary. The heart closes. But if he looks upon her with reverence, with spiritual sight, everything transforms. He sees Ar-Rahman in her kindness. He senses Al-Halim in her patience. He hears Asami in her attentive listening. Every detail becomes divine speech. Every moment becomes remembrance. This is why Ibn Arabi said, beauty is not the test. The ego is. The danger is not in loving, but in claiming. Not in seeing, but in stopping at the surface. When love turns into attachment, it chains. When it becomes remembrance, it frees. The seeker must ask, do I see only a body, or do I see a sign? Do I bow to my desire, or do I walk toward the one who placed beauty here to awaken me? When seen this way, marriage becomes sacred. Not a place of ownership, but of unveiling. Not of control, but of trust. The woman does not need perfection, only to be seen with the heart. The man does not need to destroy his desire, only to transform it. For love is never the destination, it is the lamp. And she, if you allow her, becomes the mirror through which you see not only her, but the real. Ibn Arabi did not see woman solely as a reflection of divine beauty. He saw in her the hidden wisdom of God. He taught that knowledge does not always arrive through books, sermons, or scholarly titles. Sometimes it appears through silence, patience, and the gentle truths spoken from the heart rather than the pulpit. He honored the women who shaped his journey, mothers, mystics, servants, companions, souls whose names history neglected, yet whose presence carved his path. To him, they were not lesser teachers, they were subtler ones. Their wisdom was not loud, but profound. The masculine instructs through clarity, structure, command, naming, and ordering. This is necessary. But the feminine teaches through presence, reflection, and the quiet rhythm of Sa-Re. This too is vital. Without it, knowledge hardens and law loses mercy. He wrote that the feminine heart reflects Al-Latif, the gentle, the subtle, the one who guides without force. When a woman listens with patience, supports without expecting, or speaks truth without wounding, she is performing a form of divine teaching, but such wisdom is only visible to the eye trained to recognize it. To those trapped in outward forms, she appears passive. To the awakened heart, she is a living verse. Ibn Arabi cautioned, do not dismiss the quiet ones. Do not overlook wisdom that arrives without noise. Often what seems soft outwardly holds the deepest truth within. The woman who walks humbly, forgives easily, and carries sorrow without bitterness. She is not weak. She is a whisper of the real, and those who can hear her are already learning. Ultimately, for Ibn Arabi, love was never about the beloved alone. It was about the one reflected through her. The woman you love deeply is not merely your companion. She is the mirror guiding you back to your origin. Love is the soul recalling where it came from. And woman, in her essence, awakens that remembrance. Her presence evokes divine nearness. Her beauty draws you inward, not toward her body, but toward the truth resting in your own soul. This is why Ibn Arabi taught that the heart's deepest yearning is not for a person, but for union. And union is not physical, it is spiritual. The touch of hands is beautiful, but the meeting of inner realities is sacred. To love a woman with purity is to journey back to the source. Her tenderness teaches mercy. Her mystery teaches surrender. Her resilience teaches trust. And with each step, you see not only her, but the light of the real shining through her. He wrote, "I never beheld anything without beholding God within it." Thus the beloved becomes more than a person. He becomes a threshold through which the heart enters remembrance. This is not worship of form, it is clarity of vision. When love is cleansed of ego, it becomes a ladder. The beloved becomes not a possession, but a sign. And so Ibn Arabi ends where he began, with awe, not for woman as a form, but for the divine light she reflects, not for beauty as desire, but as invitation. For those gifted with inner sight, every love becomes a path, and every path, if walked with reverence, leads not only to her, but through her, to him. If something sacred stirred within you as you listened, if these words felt less like speech and more like remembering, then this moment is not an ending. Here at Heart's Whisper, we do not simply create content. We open doors to the unseen, the forgotten, the real. Subscribe to walk deeper into the names, the signs, the mysteries. Turn on the bell, not only for videos, but for reminders of who you truly are. This is not merely a channel, it is a mirror, and you are the reflection.